Yeah, it's some would say a shocker. And where Vegas thinks we are at is this is a coin flip series at this point. So Fez, series price is effectively who's going to be champion. And right now, the series price is pretty much even.
Yeah, pretty much pick them. Actually,
is there,
Toronto,
as you look at the market, where's it leaning?
it's leaning Toronto as the very slight favorite.
52%.
Yes.
So if you were forced to bet right now, two-time Super Contest champion, you literally haven't had a straight job this century, is fair to say. Pretty much this century. Think about that a second. His predictions are so good, he hasn't had a report to work this century. If you had to bet, Steve Fezzik, Toronto, Golden State, who do you bet right now to win the title?
Toronto.
Wow. Think about that. So it is a coin flip in the series, if not a little smidge of an edge towards Toronto. But the very fact it's only a smidge, Brad Powers, you uncovered a stat, and this one's not out there. In fact, we are very judicious using our news stinger, but I think we have to. All right, Brad Powers, here's the question. We've got history when it comes to NBA Finals, NBA Series. You're saying Toronto's in a great spot.
They are. So this is all time in the history of the NBA playoffs. The only
Bill Russell?
Yeah, Bill Russell. All of it. The only
George Milken?
Yep. Right. Mikan, I think.
Mikan? See, it's been so long, we don't even know his name.
Yeah, so this is in the history. Best of 7 series is the only qualifier. Teams that go up 2-1 in the series win that series about 80% of the time, 323 and 83.
323 and 83.
80%.
80%. So on one hand, if you are a Toronto fan, you can think, man, history, Vegas says we're a small favorite, and history says should be favored. But if you're Golden State and rooting for them, it's fair to say history says we're only going to win 80% of the time or 20%, but Vegas says almost 50. Boy, that tells you Golden State is not the typical road team, a team that doesn't have home court advantage that's down in a series, because usually you think about that. Teams defined as better by the season and they're up in the series, they end up winning a lot. The question is Golden State actually better than Toronto? Fez, you've talked about why Toronto might be underrated, because the regular season, they had so many players miss so many games, load management, trades, miss games for Toronto, and that this team today is just a lot better, Toronto, than even the season's numbers, which were pretty good. That's one way to look at it. The other way to look at it is Golden State, I think it's fair to say, was at a huge disadvantage yesterday. And as we get into the game, we'll see just how big that disadvantage was.
Yeah, so let's take a look at how we got there. It was a 123-109 win for the Toronto Raptors last night. Despite 47 points from Steph Curry, it was not enough for Golden State.
Wow. I want to talk about Steph a little later, because to me, whatever feelings, and let's be honest, we can sit here as sports fans and say, Vegas, we're betting, so it's not about feelings. True. I mean, except when you lose or win, you have a lot of feelings. It's kind of the whole point of betting, I think, for a lot of people, is if you live your life and you go to work and it's boring, but hey, you're grinding for your family, there's very few times of true celebration. You look, in a way, being envious of the players because they make millions makes sense, but being envious of them caring so much about the result. When a team wins a title and you see them pouring, that's pure emotion that you usually don't see in adults. A couple of times, you got to have a baby, or you got to, maybe once or twice in your career you feel it. And as a sports fan, though, I can tell you there's one team I really care about, the Steelers, and they won their last Super Bowl before Super Bowl 40 in 1980. I was 10 years old. When they finally won again, when I was 35, 36, I guess, I woke up in a hotel in Los Angeles in a leather jacket, no shirt, with the commode above me. I was on the floor. That is emotion. No doubt about it. And with Steph, my emotions are, this guy really is a warrior. No pun intended. And I like him a lot more today because of the game last night. Brad, what was your emotions just watching Steph fighting?
Yeah, I mean, Steph, half the time he was on the floor diving for loose balls, even though, I mean, the game was pretty much in doubt. 2 minutes left. They're down double digits, and he's still diving for loose balls. Basically took that team on his back, the Warriors, and even in a losing effort, that's about as good of a finals performance as you're going to see.
And to me, my ambivalence with Steph was more about that little period of time where, and I think it was just a small period, Jonas, where he was bringing his kid up, and it's like, Daddy, and it's just like, boy, that seemed PR constructed to me, and it worked. And to me, I'm kind of the cynic. I'm saying, man, that feels like it was put together in a brainstorming session in a PR firm, right? Or I mean, how did it feel to you?
Honestly, and I'll just tell a quick story. I was working on a morning show here at Fox Sports Radio years ago. This was before the Warriors even won a title. Steph Curry was booked as a guest on our show. The Warriors game the night before went into overtime. I thought for sure there was no way he was going to get up and call in at 5 o'clock in the morning West Coast time. He called in early, and he couldn't have been a nicer guy. He was totally stand-up, coming off a brutal loss in overtime the night before. So that sort of curved my opinion of him moving forward.
So listen, for the athletes out there, the ones who are famous today, the ones who want to be famous, if you want to win over Jonas Knox, all you got to do is schedule an off-time radio interview on his low-rated show, and he will be yours forever.
Yeah, don't be a flake. Don't be a flake, and you got my
All right, let's shift to Clay, because when I say that Golden State was at a big disadvantage, I don't think people realize how big, at least with history's numbers telling us how big, that the absence was. So, Brad, you uncovered these. In 5 years, this is the 5th year with Clay and Golden State being a very competitive team, championship level. They've played a lot of games with Clay, or some games without. Give us the numbers.
Yeah, so with Clay, the Warriors the last 5 years, they win about 80% of the time, cover a little bit more than half the time. That's with Clay time.
All right, so think about that. They win the game 80% for 5 years, Golden State, when Clay's on the floor, and they cover more than half the time, which, listen, when you have a championship team, the public tends to bet them. Anything above 50% is impressive against the spread.